I'm Jen. I'm the owner of My Brooklyn Pilates, and I'm 21 and a half weeks pregnant with my second child. So I thought, what better time than to do a prenatal Pilates playlist? So today's video will be on tips on how to do Pilates when you're pregnant. So first one is that if you've been doing Pilates before you're pregnant, you can, at least for the first trimester, continue as you've been doing it, as long as everything is good to go. Now, if you're high risk of any other concerns, other medical issues, definitely speak to a professional before continuing your workout. But in general, most people can continue their Pilates routine regimen from before they were pregnant into that first trimester. And of course, if you're nauseous or fatigued, modify. Go a little bit slower, shorten the workout, make some changes. So along with that, yes, you can continue what you were doing, but you should really listen to your body. We should always listen to our bodies, but especially during pregnancy. If something doesn't feel good, you need to change it, modify it, slow it down, do less reps, change the position you're in, or take it out altogether. That doesn't mean it's gone for forever. Sometimes one exercise one day feels terrible, the next day it feels fine. So just listening to our bodies and making adjustments accordingly is important to do all the time, but especially when you're pregnant. As far as the rest of the first trimester, other than maybe thinking about doing some Kegels, there's nothing that actually has to be modified unless it doesn't feel good. It's when we get into the second trimester that we need to start to take out the crunches and the sit-ups and the rollovers, so anything that's considered weighted flexion. That doesn't mean you're not allowed to bend your spine forward. It's just we don't want to put too much intra-abdominal pressure on here and also just increase the risk of injury. Because what goes along with being pregnant is relaxin hormone being released, and that's from day one. So one thing, which I should say, with the first trimester is we don't have a lot of deep stretching that happens in Pilates. But if you do incorporate deep stretching into your Pilates routine, is you want to back off on that just because being pregnant also makes you hypermobile. And so you just run a little higher risk of injury with deep stretching, deep twists, things like that. So again, that's from day one if you do incorporate some deep stretching into your Pilates routine. But other than that, there's nothing that has to be changed. It's second trimester, again, starting to take away some of the weighted flexion and lying on your back. That doesn't mean you cannot do it. The kind of general range is about 5 minutes on your back when you get into that second trimester. That may be, some of my clients are fine their entire pregnancy on their backs, maybe with a pillow supporting their head, and nothing bothers them. Others can't even lie down for a moment. So you have to kind of see, how do you feel? And again, the average is about 5 minutes, maybe 10, maybe less, of being on your back, completely flat on your back. So it's safe for a few minutes. And you'll know when it doesn't feel good. You will start to feel nauseous. You'll feel dizzy when you have that sensation. If you have that sensation, roll over onto your left side and wait for the feeling to subside. And then you can continue on with your routine, maybe changing body positions. Now, if you cannot tolerate being on your back at all, or you'd like to be able to be on your back for more than just a few minutes, I recommend a wedge pillow. This is one purchased online. And if you do reformer, so if you do some machine work, there are reformer wedge pillows that you can get. And they're basically the same thing. They just have little cutouts for the headrest and the shoulder rests. Okay, so a wedge pillow then allows you to do a lot of the same supine exercises or exercises lying on your back that you would do when you were not pregnant. So again, that's a modification for the second and third trimesters. Second trimester, also you continue those Kegels. And when we get into the third trimester, and you start to lose some range of motion, don't panic. We never lose side bending. So even though you'll start to lose some of that forward flexion really starts to go, even for me, quickly into the second trimester, I can bend backwards, but to do swan is uncomfortable. Even do like cow is a little uncomfortable for me. So again, you're paying attention to, and some people they're fine. So it depends on how it feels for you, what you end up modifying and how much you modify. But again, as we're starting to get into that third trimester, all of us are starting to lose some range of motion. And one direction that you'll always be able to bend, just like you did when you were not pregnant, was sideways. So if you feel like, oh, I can't bend, I can't move, try side bending. And it's so satisfying. because it is the one range of motion, one way to move that you will never lose. This never restricts side bending. And when you get to that third trimester, I've been recommended to start to take out your Kegels and to focus on relaxing and expanding the pelvic floor, prepping it for birth. Now, again, everybody's the same. So for you, depending on your own situation, you may want to continue some Kegels, maybe related to previous births or other pelvic floor dysfunction. It might be important to do some pelvic floor work, but just also know that every time we breathe out, we do a Kegel. So it's not that we're totally taking out Kegels. We're just not necessarily doing intentional Kegels. Also, anytime we do leg work, moving the pelvis, moving the legs around, we're also pushing and pulling on that pelvic floor. So we're still doing work that affects the pelvic floor even without doing intentional Kegels. And so I hope these tips kind of get you going. Again, it's not much. There's mostly that you can do your Pilates as you were doing your Pilates. And in future videos in this playlist, I'll start showing some examples of how I do modify exercises if I find something to be uncomfortable, what I do to modify it so I can still do it. Whether that's on my own or if I'm taking a group class and I still want to keep up with the class, how can I quickly make some adjustments for myself during my pregnancy? And until then, until my next video comes out, feel free to check out my 2 other Pilates playlists. One is for diastasis recti, and even if you don't have diastasis recti, although that happens to us all in the 3rd trimester, unless you're like me, it's already started a little bit, there's some great breathing exercises that you can do. I also have some very kind of basic Pilates exercises, some core stabilization exercises, how to find neutral pelvis. So there's a whole series. Again, that's my diastasis recti playlist. Feel free to check out that. All of that is safe for pregnancy. And then also check out my pelvic floor playlist as well. That gives several different cues for doing Kegels, as well as how to do the reverse Kegel, how to widen and relax the pelvic floor, which we will want to be able to do for labor and delivery.